The spaceport of Riven 9 was always loud. Engines roared like angry beasts. Metal doors slammed. Alien voices mixed with human shouts, creating a noise that never truly stopped. Thousands of beings passed through every hour, each carrying their own problems, their own destinations, their own fears. And in the middle of all that noise, a small alien girl stood completely alone. She was barely taller than a human child. Her skin shimmered a soft blue like moonlight on water. Her eyes were wide and glowing faintly, filled with fear. A thin travel band hung loosely from her wrist, cracked and blinking red. She was crying. Not loudly, not enough to draw attention. Just quiet, broken sobs that were lost under the sound of the spaceport. People passed her without slowing down. A group of merchants argued about cargo prices. A soldier stepped around her without even looking down. A pair of aliens glanced at her, then quickly looked away. No one wanted trouble. No one wanted responsibility. No one stopped. Except one man. His name was Evan Hale. Evan was a human mechanic, tired and worn from long hours of work. His clothes were stained with grease, and his hands were rough from fixing ships that didn't belong to him. He had just finished a double shift and wanted nothing more than to go home, eat something cheap, and sleep. Then he heard the sound. A small cry, weak, lost. He slowed his steps. Evan told himself to keep walking. The galaxy was dangerous. Helping strangers often ended badly. He had learned that the hard way. But his feet stopped anyway. He turned. The girl was standing near a broken sign, hugging herself like she was trying not to disappear. Tears ran down her cheeks, glowing faintly as they fell. Evan felt a tight pain in his chest. He approached slowly, keeping his hands visible so he wouldn't scare her. "Hey," he said gently, "are you okay?" The girl flinched at his voice. She looked up at him, eyes full of panic. For a moment, she looked ready to run. Then a small device near her throat clicked. I am lost," she said in a trembling voice. "I cannot find my mother." The words hit Evan harder than he expected. He knelt down so he was at her eye level. "What's your name?" he asked softly. "Lyra," she replied, her small hands shook. "My mother told me to wait, then the alarms came, then the ship was gone." Evan swallowed. Pirate attacks were common near Riven 9. Families got separated, people disappeared, most never got lucky. "How long have you been here?" Evan asked. "I do not know," Lyra said. "My counter stopped." Evan looked at the cracked travel band. It was damaged badly. No signal, no tracking. That meant no easy answers. A loud announcement echoed through the spaceport. Lyra winced and covered her ears. Without thinking, Evan took off his jacket and gently placed it around her shoulders. She froze, then slowly relaxed. "It's okay," he said. "You're safe right now." She looked at him with confusion. "You are human," she said quietly. "Yeah," Evan replied with a small smile. "Is that bad?" She hesitated. "They say humans do not care." Evan felt something twist inside him. "Well," he said, standing up and offering his hand, "they're wrong." Lyra stared at his hand for a long moment. Then she took it. Her grip was tight, like she was afraid he might vanish. Evan didn't know where her mother was. He didn't know if he could actually help. He didn't know if this would end well. But as he looked down at the lost alien girl standing beside him, one thing was clear. He wasn't walking away. And somewhere in the vast, uncaring galaxy, a small thread of fate had just been pulled, changing both their lives forever. Evan held Lyra's small hand tightly as they walked through the crowded spaceport. Her glowing eyes darted nervously from one person to another. Every shadow seemed too dark, every noise too loud. She clung to him like he was the only safe thing in the galaxy. I do not know where to go," she admitted softly. Her voice trembled. "They said to wait, but I could not." Evan nodded. He had no easy answers, but he knew one thing. He could not leave her alone, not here, not ever. "Don't worry, Lyra," he said. "We'll find your mother, I promise." She blinked up at him. The glow in her eyes flickered with hope. It was fragile like a candle in the wind, but it was enough. The first problem was food. The girl had not eaten in nearly a day. Evan reached into his pocket and handed her a small packet of nutrient paste he kept for emergencies. She stared at it, unsure, then took a small bite. Her shoulders relaxed slightly. "Better?" Evan asked. She nodded, swallowing slowly. "Thank you," she whispered. They walked past the busy terminals, and Evan tried to think of where to start. He asked dock masters, scanned passenger lists, and even looked through old emergency messages. But every answer was either wrong or led to a dead end. Hours passed. Lyra grew more frightened with each failure. At one point, she sat on the floor, hugging her knees, trembling. "I cannot find her," she said, tears rolling down her cheeks. "Maybe she is gone." Evan knelt beside her and placed a hand on her shoulder. "No," he said firmly. "She's not gone. We just have to keep looking. I won't give up, and you shouldn't either." She looked at him, her glowing eyes wide with fear and hope tangled together. For the first time since the spaceport, she smiled a little. They kept searching, moving from terminal to terminal, sometimes resting in small corners where the crowd could not reach them. At night, Evan found a quiet maintenance room where they could rest. He pulled out a thin blanket and wrapped it around Lyra. "Do you sleep?" she asked quietly. "I do," Evan replied. "Try to rest too. We need our energy if we want to find your mom." She nodded and leaned against him, finally letting herself relax. Evan watched her for a long time. Her breathing was soft, almost like a lullaby, and for a moment he allowed himself to forget the dangers of the galaxy. But danger was always close. Spaceports were filled with people who would take advantage of someone small and alone. Pirates, smugglers, and worse prowled the corners. Evan knew this, and it made his chest tighten with worry. The next morning they tried again. He spoke to every pilot, every station officer, every traveler he could find. Every person gave excuses, shrugged, or shook their heads. Finally, a small clue appeared. A data log showed a shuttle leaving the port in the chaos the night before. The shuttle's name matched the tag on Lyra's wrist. Evan's heart pounded. "This is it," he said, gripping her hand. "We have a lead." Lyra's eyes lit up with hope. She clutched his arm tightly. "Really?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Really," he confirmed. "We'll find her, I swear it." As they prepared to leave the station, a shadow fell over them. A tall, hooded figure blocked their path. His voice was low and dangerous. "Looking for a child human?" he asked. Evan tightened his grip on Lyra. "Stay back," he warned. "She's just a child." The figure laughed, a sound that made Lyra shiver. "Children like her are valuable. She could make someone very rich." Evan felt a surge of anger and fear. He had no weapons, no ship to escape quickly, nothing but his hands and his courage. But he stepped forward anyway, placing himself between Lyra and the stranger. "You do not touch her," Evan said, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "She is not for sale. She belongs to no one but her mother." The figure's eyes narrowed, but before he could respond, the station security arrived. Alarms blared. The stranger fled into the crowd. Evan held Lyra close. She buried her face in his chest, trembling. I was scared," she whispered. "I know," Evan said softly. "I know, but you're safe now. I won't let anything hurt you." Lyra looked up at him, eyes shining. You will really help me." "Always," Evan promised. "I won't stop, not until your mother is safe." And in that moment, Lyra's trust wrapped around him like a warm light. Evan knew then that this promise, this mission, would change his life forever. Because the galaxy was vast and dangerous, but for the first time, Evan felt something worth risking everything for, a lost child and the hope of bringing her home. Evan and Lyra moved quickly through the bustling corridors of Riven 9's outer docks. Every sound made Lyra flinch, the clanging of machinery, the hum of engines, the shouted orders of alien crew members. She stayed close to Evan, her small hand gripping his tightly, her trust in him absolute. "I do not like this place," Lyra whispered. "Too many eyes, too many dangers." Evan nodded. "I know, Lyra, but we have to keep going. Your mom could be anywhere and we can't waste time." As they turned a corner, a group of rough-looking aliens blocked the hall. Their armor was patched, their weapons slung casually over their shoulders, but their eyes were sharp and dangerous. "Well, what do we have here?" one sneered. "A human and a little Velari girl, lost maybe, or useful." Evan felt his chest tighten. He had no weapons, no ship, no backup, only his hands, his mind, and the promise he had made to Lyra. "She is not lost," Evan said firmly, "and she is not for sale." The aliens laughed, a harsh, grating sound that echoed off the metal walls. "Cute words," another said, "but words won't protect her, or you." Lyra pressed herself against Evan, trembling. I do not want to go with them," she whispered. Evan bent down to her level. "You won't, I promise, just stay behind me." The aliens moved closer. Their leader raised a weapon. Evan's stomach twisted, fear and determination fighting inside him. He had faced broken ships and angry traders before, but never real violence. Not like this, not for someone else. Before the first shot could be fired, alarms blared through the station. Red lights flashed, and security drones whirred down the hall. The aliens hesitated, then fled into the shadows, muttering curses. Evan exhaled slowly, his hands trembling. Lyra clung to him tightly, her small body shaking. "Are they gone?" she asked. "For now," Evan said. "But we have to be careful. There are people in this galaxy who would hurt you for money or power." Lyra looked up at him, eyes wide. "Why are you helping me? You could leave. No one would stop you." Evan swallowed hard. He had asked himself that question 1,000 times since he found her. Why risk everything for a small child, a stranger from another world? "Because I promised," he said simply, "and because you deserve someone to help you, someone who cares." Lyra's eyes glimmered with tears, but a small smile appeared. "Thank you, Evan, really." They moved on, heading toward the shuttle bay where the data log had shown Lyra's mother's ship might be. Every corner seemed more dangerous now. Every shadow could hide a threat. But Evan refused to show fear. Not to her. Hours later, as they reached the outer hangars, Evan finally found a quiet moment. He crouched beside Lyra. "Listen," he said softly. "We're close, but we might face more people who want to stop us. If anything happens, you have to stay calm. Do you understand?" She nodded. "I trust you. I do not want to lose you, Evan." He felt a lump in his throat. He had never felt so responsible for someone. He had never felt such fear for anyone's life. "We won't lose each other," he said firmly. "I swear." Then the sound of footsteps echoed behind them. Heavy, deliberate, not human, not friendly. Evan's heart raced. He grabbed Lyra's hand and pulled her behind a stack of crates. The footsteps grew louder. The air smelled of burning metal. He could hear voices speaking in a harsh, alien language he didn't understand. "They're looking for her," he whispered to Lyra. "But stay quiet, don't move." The footsteps paused. One of the aliens scanned the hangar. Evan held his breath, hoping Lyra's small form would remain hidden. The alien cursed and moved on. Lyra exhaled softly. I thought they would take me," she said. "They almost did," Evan admitted. "But we're stronger together, and we're not done yet. We'll find your mother, I promise." They stayed hidden until the sounds faded. Then, cautiously, they continued toward the shuttle bay. Evan's mind raced with questions. Who were those aliens? How many more would come? How far would he have to go to keep his promise? But as he looked down at Lyra's glowing eyes, filled with hope and trust, he knew one thing. He could not give up, not now, not ever. The galaxy was dangerous, full of pirates, thieves, and war. But for the first time, Evan realized something important. Sometimes courage was not about fighting with weapons. Sometimes it was about standing in front of someone who could not defend themselves and refusing to move. And he would stand there, always. Because Lyra needed him, and he had promised. Evan and Lyra finally reached the quiet edge of the outer hangar. The place was empty except for a few scattered crates and the hum of idle shuttles. Lyra's tiny hand squeezed his, her eyes wide and shining with a mixture of fear and hope. I see something," she whispered, her glowing eyes fixed on a blinking light on a nearby console. Evan walked over, brushing dust from the surface. The console was old, almost forgotten, but a small emergency signal flashed on its screen. The signal's coordinates were different from the usual docking logs. It was from outside the station, far beyond the normal traffic routes. "Your mother, she might be there," Evan said carefully. He didn't want to get Lyra's hopes up too high, but the signal was real. He could feel it in his chest, a spark of hope, fragile but alive. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. "Really?" she asked, her voice trembling. She is alive." "I think so," Evan said softly. "We have a chance. That's all we need right now, a chance." They prepared to leave the station immediately. Evan helped Lyra climb into a small shuttle he had arranged for emergencies, a ship patched together from old parts but still reliable. As the engines hummed to life, Evan's heart pounded. The station had dangers they didn't see yet, pirates, rogue traders, or worse. "Are you scared?" Lyra asked quietly, her hands gripping the console. Evan looked at her small, glowing face, so full of trust and hope. "Of course I am," he admitted. "But being scared doesn't mean we stop. It means we keep going no matter what." They took off into space. The stars stretched infinitely ahead, cold and silent. Evan's mind raced. How far would they have to go? What dangers waited at the signal's location? He didn't know. All he knew was that he couldn't fail. Lyra was counting on him. Hours passed as they navigated through asteroid belts and radio interference. Lyra remained quiet most of the time, leaning against the small console, watching the stars streak past. Evan stole glances at her. She seemed so small, so fragile, yet her determination shone brighter than any star outside. Finally, the shuttle's sensors picked up a faint energy signature. Evan held his breath. It matched the emergency beacon they had traced from the station. "That's her," Lyra whispered, her voice barely audible. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I can feel it, my mother." Evan's chest tightened. "Stay calm," he said. "We're close, but we don't know what we'll find yet." As they approached the coordinates, a small station came into view. It looked abandoned at first, metal panels scorched and walls dented, but lights flickered weakly inside. Evan's stomach churned. The signal was active, but was anyone still alive? The shuttle landed with a soft thud, and Evan helped Lyra out. Her tiny hand stayed in his. Together, they entered the station. Inside, the air smelled of burnt circuits and recycled oxygen. Evan could hear Lyra's quiet breathing, fast and nervous. Then, in a distant room, he heard a sound that stopped his heart. "Lyra." It was a woman's voice, soft, strained, but unmistakable. Lyra gasped and ran toward it. Her tiny legs moved quickly, almost flying. Evan followed, careful not to fall behind. The room opened up, and there she was. A tall alien woman, her skin the same shimmering blue as Lyra's, her eyes wide with fear and relief. She stumbled forward as Lyra reached her, and the mother scooped her daughter up. Lyra wrapped her arms around her mother's neck, sobbing freely. The woman hugged her tightly, tears streaking her face. "I thought I lost you," she whispered. "I thought I would never see you again." Evan stayed in the doorway, watching. His heart ached and soared at the same time. The moment was beautiful, perfect, and yet it made him feel small, unnecessary, and yet vital. He had brought them together, but now he wasn't sure where he fit. The mother's eyes turned toward him. For the first time, she really looked at him. "You," she said softly. "You saved her, you brought her back to me." Evan shook his head, feeling awkward. I just did what anyone would. I couldn't leave her alone." The woman's gaze was steady, filled with gratitude, but also a quiet power he could feel in his bones. "No," she said. "Most would not risk themselves for a stranger. Most would look away. You are different." Lyra clung to her mother, her small face shining with happiness. Evan felt a lump in his throat. He had expected relief. He had expected joy. But he hadn't expected the way the moment would strike him, the way it would change something inside him forever. And in that quiet, flickering light of the abandoned station, Evan realized that the galaxy was bigger than fear, bigger than danger, bigger than loneliness. Sometimes all it took was a single human heart willing to stand and care, to make the impossible real. He knew then that his life, like Lyra, would never be the same again. Evan stood in the doorway, watching Lyra cling to her mother. His chest felt heavy, a mix of relief and confusion. He had risked everything to bring this little girl back, and now the reunion was happening exactly as it should. Yet something in the mother's eyes made him uneasy. The alien woman finally stepped forward, placing a hand gently on Evan's shoulder. Her touch was soft, but her gaze was sharp. "You have done more than anyone could ask," she said. "You have returned my daughter safely, and for that I am grateful beyond words." Evan shrugged, feeling awkward under her attention. I just wanted to help. I didn't know it would be this important." The mother's eyes softened, but there was still something serious in her tone. "You should know the truth, human. Lyra is not just any child. She is the heir to the Velari Union, one of the most powerful political and military families in our galaxy." Evan's eyebrows shot up. Wait, you mean she's royalty?" "Yes," the woman said quietly. "And that is why she was in danger. Those who seek power would have taken her if she were alone. Your courage, your refusal to leave her has saved more than a child. You have saved the future of the Union." Evan felt the weight of her words pressing on him. He had only thought about keeping a frightened little girl safe. He had not considered the galaxy, the politics, the wars that could be prevented by a child's survival. Lyra looked up at him, her glowing eyes wide and bright. You saved me," she asked, her voice trembling. "I did," Evan said softly, "but only because I promised and because I couldn't leave you alone." Her mother studied him for a long moment, her gaze intense. "Your bravery and kindness, that is rare among humans. Many would have walked away. Many would have ignored her cries. You did not. You risked yourself, and for that the galaxy owes you more than you know." Evan felt a lump in his throat. He had never thought of himself as brave. He was just human, just someone who couldn't turn away from a child in need. But hearing her say it, seeing the gratitude in her eyes, made him realize something he had never allowed himself to feel. He had made a difference. Then she stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Evan, your life may never be the same. You have entered a world far larger than you imagined. There will be dangers, responsibilities, and choices you did not expect. But you have already proven that you have the heart for it." Evan swallowed hard. I don't want anything," he said quickly. "I just wanted to help her. I never asked for all this." The mother smiled faintly, a mixture of warmth and sadness. "That is why your actions matter so much. Most help for reward, you helped for nothing. That is what changes the world." Lyra hugged him tightly. "You are my hero," she whispered. "You brought me back to my mother." Evan felt a sharp, warm sting in his chest. He had never imagined anyone would see him like that, trust him like that. The galaxy had always been cold, harsh, and uncaring. But here, in this small, flickering room on the edge of space, he realized the truth. Courage, kindness, and a human heart could matter more than power, weapons, or politics. The mother placed a hand on Lyra's shoulder, then looked back at Evan. "Know this," she said. "You are now protected by the Union. Your life is safe from those who would harm you. And someday you may choose how far you want to go, but remember, the courage to do what is right, even when it is hard, will always define you." Evan nodded slowly, still processing the enormity of what he had done. I just hope I can live up to that," he said quietly. "You already have," the woman said firmly. "More than you realize." For a long moment, Evan stood there watching Lyra and her mother embrace. His heart was full, yet heavy with the weight of what he had learned. The galaxy was vast, dangerous, and often cruel, but here he had seen something stronger than fear. He had seen hope, trust, and the power of one human willing to stand for what was right. And he knew, deep down, that nothing would ever be the same again. Because he had saved a life and in doing so had touched the fate of an entire galaxy, Evan could hardly believe what was happening. He had expected gratitude, maybe a quiet thank. But this was something far beyond what he had imagined. Lyra's mother, the High Matron of the Velari Union, had gathered a small council of her aides and advisors. They spoke quickly in their language, making calculations and decisions that Evan only half understood. But the message was clear. His life would never be the same. "You saved more than a child," the matron said, her voice calm but full of weight. "You have preserved the future of our people. Such courage must be rewarded." Evan's stomach twisted. I don't want anything," he said. "I didn't do this for gifts or power. I just wanted to help Lyra." The matron's eyes softened, but there was no misunderstanding her meaning. This galaxy does not reward silence or inaction. Those who saved the Union's heir must be protected. You will have ships, resources, and the full support of our fleets. You will never want for safety or opportunity again." Evan shook his head, feeling overwhelmed. The weight of her offer pressed down on him. He was just a mechanic, a human who fixed broken ships and patched worn engines. He was not a hero. He had not sought power or respect or glory. But he looked at Lyra, her glowing eyes filled with hope and trust, and realized that whatever he chose, he had already made a mark. The little girl's life was safe, and for that he could not be selfish, but he also could not abandon who he was. I cannot take all that," he said finally. "I don't want riches, ships, or armies. I want to keep helping people. Lost children, scared travelers, those who have no one." The matron studied him carefully. "You ask for little, yet it is more than many rulers possess. You ask only for the right to act with your own heart. That is exactly what makes you remarkable." Evan's hand found Lyra, and she squeezed it tightly. She seemed to understand, in her small, simple way, that the choices he made were more important than any promise of wealth. "Then it is decided," the matron said, smiling faintly. "You will have the protection you need to continue helping those in need. Not as a ruler, not as a soldier, not as a hero, only as a human who chooses to care." Evan felt a strange weight lift from his shoulders. The galaxy would respect him, watch him, protect him. But he could remain the same man he had always been. Someone who fixed ships, helped the lost, and never walked away from a child in need. That night, as the station quieted, Lyra fell asleep against his side. Evan looked out at the stars, thinking about everything he had learned. Power was tempting, but courage without purpose was empty. Kindness could change lives more than weapons ever could. And one human, even alone, could make a difference that echoed across worlds. He thought of all the dangers they had faced: pirates, armed aliens, endless uncertainty. And yet the small moments had mattered more: holding Lyra's hand, giving her food, comforting her when she thought the world had forgotten her. Evan realized that the galaxy was vast, yes, but his heart was just as vast. It had room for hope, for fear, for trust, and for action. And as long as he had that, he could continue to change lives. The matron approached him once more before leaving with Lyra. "Evan, hail," she said quietly. "The galaxy remembers those who act from the heart. Never forget that." He nodded, watching her leave with her daughter. He felt an unexpected warmth in his chest. He had done what he thought was simple. He had kept a promise, but the result was extraordinary. And in that moment, Evan understood what it truly meant to be human. Not to conquer, not to rule, not to seek glory, but to care. To act. To stand for what was right, even when the odds were against you. The stars outside the station were cold and distant, but inside, Evan felt a fire light in his chest. He was still a mechanic, still a human among the stars. But now he carried something else. A purpose that no empire, no pirate, no danger could take away. And he knew, with a certainty he had never felt before, that this was only the beginning. The galaxy was wide. Life was fragile. And he was ready to face it, hand in hand with hope, courage, and the simple power of being human. Evan returned to his small workshop on Riven 9 with a quiet heart and a strange feeling he had never experienced before. The walls were the same, the tools scattered across the tables, the smell of grease and metal filling the air. Nothing had changed, but everything felt different. He wiped his hands on a rag and leaned back against a crate, thinking about the journey that had brought him here. A lost alien girl. A dangerous galaxy, pirates, threats, and fear. And in the middle of it all, one simple promise: he would not walk away. Now that promise had grown into something far bigger than he could have imagined. Lyra had been reunited with her mother, the High Matron of the Veleri Union. His small act of kindness had rippled through the stars, saving not just a child, but the future of an entire people. And though he had refused riches and power, the universe had not forgotten him. Travelers greeted him in the stations. Aliens bowed or smiled when they saw him. Children waved at him, calling out, "The human who saved Lyra." Evan felt embarrassed at first. He was just a mechanic, a man who fixed broken ships and gave comfort to a frightened girl. But slowly he realized something profound. The galaxy respected courage, not because of strength, but because of heart. Days turned into weeks, and Lyra visited whenever she could. She brought small gifts, strange trinkets from Velari worlds, and told him stories of her adventures with her mother. Her laughter filled the small workshop, a sound that was brighter than any engine hum, warmer than any sunlight. "Uncle Evan," she called him, "I told everyone you are the bravest human in the galaxy." Evan chuckled, ruffling her glowing hair. "I'm just a human, Lyra, but thank you. That means a lot." And yet the gratitude he received was not just from her. Other lost travelers, frightened aliens, and weary humans came seeking help. They had heard of the mechanic who had dared to protect a child when the galaxy seemed too cruel to care. And Evan, without hesitation, helped them all. He fixed broken ships, guided refugees, and comforted those who had no one. He never sought glory, never asked for reward, but each act of kindness echoed farther than he could see. Every life he touched became part of the chain he had begun with a single promise to a small, lost alien girl. One evening, Evan looked up at the stars through the open doors of his workshop. The galaxy was vast and cold, but he no longer felt small. He had learned a truth that no danger could erase. One human, acting with courage and heart, could change worlds. And it was not just about bravery, it was about connection, trust, hope. A simple act of kindness could spark a chain of events that shaped the lives of thousands, maybe millions, across countless worlds. Evan thought of Lyra, asleep in her quarters aboard her mother's ship, safe and happy. He thought of the pirates, the armed aliens, the threats he had faced. And he realized something remarkable. None of it had mattered as much as the choice he had made. The choice to care, to stay, to act. He smiled softly. The galaxy was still dangerous. There were still lost children, broken ships, and shadows that waited for the weak. But there was also hope, and that hope was his to give. Sometimes, travelers brought news of the Velari Union. Lyra's mother ensured that the refugee lanes were safer, that stations offered protection to those in need, that pirates were pursued and stopped. Evan's simple act had inspired others. The galaxy remembered the courage of one human who refused to walk away. Evan leaned back against the workbench, feeling the warmth of the workshop around him. Outside, the stars blinked silently, but inside, the light of human kindness shone brighter than any sun. He knew he would never be the same. The galaxy had changed him as much as he had changed it. He had discovered that courage was not about strength, weapons, or titles. It was about standing for what was right, even when no one else could. And for Evan, that was enough. The small alien girl had trusted him. Her mother had thanked him. The galaxy had remembered him. And in that truth, Evan found peace, purpose, and a fire that would never fade. Because he had learned the most important lesson a human could teach. That even in a vast and dangerous universe, one person, acting from the heart, could make all the difference. And from that day forward, Evan Hale, the human who had helped a lost alien girl, would never be forgotten.